Good morning, children. Welcome to the chemistry online session. Hope all are doing good. In the last class, we were discussing about separation of substances. We learned about some methods of separation. Today, we are going to learn about evaporation and condensation. Children, you are familiar with evaporation and condensation. You already learned in your lower classes about this. Evaporation and condensation is a natural process. Do you know why wet clothes dry when hang them under the sun? Because it is due to evaporation. So, what is evaporation? And how does evaporation dry the clothes? Let's find this answer by doing some activities. The conversion of liquid to vapor is called evaporation. Clothes dry out because of evaporation. When we heat water, then water is converted into water vapor. Dry of clothes due to evaporation is a slow process, while when we heat water, it changes into vapor is a fast process. So heating speeds up the evaporation process. Now take 2 teaspoons of sugar into the water. The sugar dissolves completely and no particles of sugar is left behind. Now, can we get the particles of sugar back? Is that possible, children? Just keep on heating the water. After some time, the water slowly evaporated away. All the water is completely evaporated and sugar is left behind at the bottom of the pan. So, we separated the sugar that was dissolved in the water by the method of evaporation. Children, you know seawater contains salt. How common salt is obtained from seawater? It is due to evaporation. Let's see how common salt is obtained from seawater by evaporation. Seawater contains a mixture of different types of salt. Common salt that we used in our kitchen is one of them. So, how do we take common salt out from seawater? To start with, seawater is collected in shallow pits dug on the seashore. This seawater is then allowed to evaporate by the heat of the sun. When the water gets completely evaporated, a mixture of solid salts is left behind. Common salt is obtained from the mixture by further purification process. Moving on to condensation. What is condensation? Condensation is just the opposite of evaporation. Let us learn about condensation in detail. Have you ever left the cup of hot tea covered for a while? We can see water drops left on the cover. Where does this water come from? Well, water vapor from the hot liquid in the cup comes in contact with the cover. The cover is colder than the vapor. So, the water vapor gets cooled and changes into water drops. This process of water vapor turning back into its liquid form is called condensation. Now we have learned both evaporation and condensation. Evaporation and condensation can be used together to separate substances. For example, the conversion of liquid to vapor is called evaporation. The process of water vapor turning back into its liquid form is called condensation. Both evaporation and condensation can be used together to separate substances. For example, evaporation and condensation can be used to get salt and water from a mixture. Heat a mixture of salt and water in a pot and cover it with a lid. Heat the pan for some time. Now, place some ice on another lid and wait for some time. And then lift the lid slightly away from the pan as shown. Can you see water droplets form under the lid? From where did these water droplets come? Water from the mixture gets evaporated to vapor, then condensed on the lid, and water is collected on another beaker. The salt is left settled at the bottom of the pot. So, evaporation and condensation can be used together to separate substances. Children, if you are given a mixture containing water, sand and salt, how can we separate the three components from one another? For this, we have to use more than one method of separation. So let's do an activity that how can we separate the substance from their mixture by using more than one method of separation. Let's see how can we separate sand, salt and water from its mixture by using more than one method of separation. First method, we use sedimentation and decantation. Add some water in the mixture of sand and salt and wait for the sand to settle. Then we will decant the salty water, which will separate sand from the mixture. The mixture containing salty water. Now we have to separate salt from water. For this, we use evaporation process. Let's heat the mixture. We can collect some water which turned into vapor using condensation by placing a lid on it. Now the water is completely evaporated, leaving the salt behind. Thus, we successfully separated sand, salt and water using the combination of sedimentation, decantation, evaporation and condensation method. So that's all for today's class. Hope all of you understood this topic. Go through the video URL, attend the test questions and copy the notes. Read the lesson well. See you in the next class. Take care children. Thank you.